Alright, first off, you're going to get your Space Pi X2 unboxed. All you need to make sure you save this, your power cord. Set that off to the side. And you're going to have your Space Pi. Now, that's going to be in the way of another video. Tools you're going to need. Some kind of Dremel or rotary tool for cutting away a shell. You're going to need some wire cutters. Some snips for cutting zip ties. Some solder, soldering iron. Also some heat shrink tubing or electrical tape. I didn't have any heat shrink tubing, so I ended up going and just finding some electrical tape. Optional is flux paste. You're going to want some Allen wrenches. You're going to need them. You're going to need a number 1 or number 2 Phillips. A number 2 is preferred. A number 1, like I got, will work. Some scissors. Some super glue. This is an old tube. Go ahead and trash that. You're going to need some zip ties. And something I just dropped that I need. Alright. You will need some 14 or 16 gauge wire. I'll show you in a minute once I get started. Little container to hold all your screws. Make sure you have sanding disc and cutting disc for your rotary. You will need the extension for this mod, for this screen. The mod is called Creality Space Pi Plus Mod. It can be found on Creality Cloud. It's by D_V_Ermakov, E-R-M-A-K-O-V. And you're not going to need all the pieces, but you're going to need most of them. Bring this back up. You will need a lighter for the heat shrink tubing if you're using that. Some sandpaper. I know it's a sanding belt. Don't judge me. Optional is some new Capricorn tubing and a cutter. I'll show you why later in the video and in the live. Now for the pieces, oh yeah, you're also going to need a little flathead screwdriver. For the pieces you will need. First, you'll need your screen. That gets printed up. Here's your cut guide for the screen. You will need the left and right fan ducts. You'll need 2 of these ducts. I ended up breaking one on accident. I had a layer issue that I did not see. Had a clog. Here is the cut guide for the desiccant area, which is also the inlet for the heaters. Here is your cut guide for your power switch. You can either use this one, or actually, yeah, that is the cut guide for it. Now, you have 2 cut guides for the top vents. This one is for the right-hand side. If you're looking at the CFS from the top, remember, right, that is the right-hand side or left. But there's 2 different ones. You have to be careful which one it is. Now, actually, I think this one's the left side, because they will sit like this, and you just mark them out. There's 2 different covers for the inlet. I prefer the one that doesn't glue in, it just snaps in. Here's your exhaust vents. These are also important. And then the main body and the power strip, or the power switch connector. Now, all the pieces that go inside, along with the inlet air vent and the outlet air vent, you want to print all those along with the internals in a high temp filament. You cannot use PLA. You want to use something like PETG carbon fiber, and you don't want a filament that's going to off gas either. That's why I recommend PETG. Now, once you get your space pie, figure out where I left it. Dr. Pepper, if you're watching, please sponsor me. So, you got your space pie right here. Well, space pie X2. So take this apart, because there are no guides online. You will want to first get up underneath here. You can use fingernails or a flathead. Rip these off. There is a CFS rack for 2 or 3 CFS units to sit next to your machine, done by Darren 3D Printing, or D3P. It requires these. So, set those to the side, save them. The reason why you got to remove them is screws you need are underneath. There's the other one. The other thing that you have to remove is this cover right here over the screen. This one you'll want like your thin flathead screwdriver. And you're not going to get rid of this either. This also gets set aside. This is an option that I haven't seen on any of the write-ups, but I do it because it adds a little extra protection for the screen. Because what you'll be doing is cutting out part of this to set into here, right in this recess, so that when you're touching the screen for the dryer, you don't have to worry about fingerprints and stuff like that. Now that you've got all that off, you see the screen right here, along with a screw right here and a screw right here. These are important because you need that after you remove these screws to be able to take the bottom off. Now, go ahead and get started here. Pause my other video for now until I get the bottom off. Alright, once you have the 4 bottom screws out, or the 6 bottom screws I should say, these 2 up here are going to be a number 1 Phillips. Once that happens, you can then remove the bottom tray. You won't need that anymore. What we're after is all of that internal goodness right there. Get this off screen a little bit better. Now, you're also going to be keeping this screen right here. And that's what the extension cable is for. The link for this right here is actually in the download file. Now these screws are also Phillips screws. But they are actually smaller. So in that case, you need number 0 Phillips head as well. No, I don't want to try. I want... Let's go with this bad boy right there. Remember, save all your screws. You'll be reusing about 95% of them. Now, once this comes out, once that's loose, underneath here is where the connector is for it. Your little snips here are going to come in handy because it's got a little bit of glue. Creality likes to use hot glue to keep connectors together. Right, there we are. Careful if you're doing this to not cut the wire. We go back and forth. Eventually, she'll come free. Put that into the screen for now. Keep it protected. Now, next thing you want to do is get all these electronics out of here. I'll come back on this other video once I get it all out. Alright, once you get everything out of this, including the power or the plug here and switch, along with your screen, which I just set down currently into the screen mount, you can get rid of this. No longer needed. Motherboard comes out with this, so there's one screw that you would not be able to access right here unless you removed this whole assembly. And as always, save your screws. Just for time saving, I am not going to do any soldering on camera. I already have one ready to go. Now this piece, you can save your little desk packets out of it because it's got little baby ones. You don't need them. But, if you're like me, you save them, period. You can always dump them out, put them on a baking sheet and cook them in the oven at 400 degrees. So, I've got a drawer underneath here with probably about 5,000 packets. So, don't worry, I didn't come empty-handed. Now, next step, you see these little ducts on the heaters right here? These are not needed either. Those can disappear. All you're wanting is a heater. Do not remove these two screws up on top where this block is, so you can mess this up. Take that and put it in with the rest of the trash of the case. Saving screws. Now when you're done, you should be left with all of this. You got your blowers, you got your heaters, and then you got your power right here. This is optional, but I recommend it. And that is to cut, carefully cut this heat shrink away. There's a little piece right here that the cord wraps through. You can either leave it with one on there or remove it completely. I prefer to remove it completely because it gives you that much more room, and I don't notice a difference anyways. This is not needed at all. I can go in the trash. Now, the reason for the wires, the red and black wires, is so that you can lengthen these two sets of wires here, the blue and the black. Lengthen them by roughly 3 to 4 inches. I'll show you that here in a minute. Screwdriver back in. Our end goal is to build this. When it's done, this is what you're left with. Notice my 2 power wires here. Once you drop this into the CFS, these will go through here. Switch comes in from the outside. And you want to also have, your little 4-inch zip ties. You're going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 4-inch zip ties to hold everything down, because you got the 2 cable managements there, the one there, and then the one right here. This is the end goal. I did this in PET CF17 by Fiberon, which is made by Polymaker. Really good stuff. So you got your switch, you got your mounts here. First thing you want to do is you are going to you got your open end of the air duct here. It's going to sit right there into the inlet right here. The other one is going to sit right here. But here's the kicker. This one, this screw spot right here, is the biggest pain in the butt. You do have to put that one on first. It is notched on here for it to slip into. When printing these, I recommend 3 to 4 wall, or actually about 4 to 5 walls, because you are putting screws in. Now once you get that on there, you only get like 1 or 2 threads on there. We'll put that in there. That's where we're using the long screws. If you got an electric screwdriver, it helps when doing all this. Now there are little grooves on the bottom side that line up with the piece here. I don't know how well you can see that. There's one. The second one is also notched, but you don't need to. You don't need to install a screw first because you have complete access to both of them. Like I said, I will be posting this video up, I know, on my YouTube, possibly on my TikTok, depending on how big the file is. But it looks like it's going to be too long of a video for TikTok. Yeah. Remember, you do not want to over tighten these. Once again, you are screwing into plastic. Another reason for going with PET G, because this is a lot stronger. Now all that's going to slip over to there, through the channel between the two fans. Now, you have these holes opposite the black top on these heaters. What you will do is you'll take this, and one little good piece of advice is to sit there and make sure that the holes are reamed out properly. Then we'll set the heater inside of there, like that. The holes will line up on the bottom, right there and right there. Then slip this into the air duct, like so. Then you're going to take two of your screws that you saved, you're going to get that one started. Yellow one in there, tighten down, like that. All right. So it's going to look like this. Show the camera over here. Then, once you get both of them in, get rid of that. Then what you're going to want to do, like I did on here, is these two wires used to lengthen the blue wire and the black wire off of the fans, or I mean off the heater circuits. And you don't want to cut them to length until you have all your wires secured there and here and here. Then you can trim it to length. Being a heater circuit, it doesn't really matter if you have blue here and black here or blue here and black here. All it is just a heating element. Electricity goes through, heats up the element. I am going to unmount my wires here. So that I can get this baby mounted. Now, on the back side here, there is a recess hole right here. That is for your temperature probe. You want to make sure that this sits like that. In other words, your power wires are facing the bottom of the plate here. Once again, 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I recommend using the short screws. Where my screwdriver go? Take your screw, line it up, once you get it started, don't tighten it down all the way, because you need to make sure all the other screws start and that everything lines up. I'd recommend hitting the opposite corner next. Get it started. The next one, you got 3 screws in and they're all loose. Put the 4th one, get it going, tighten it up, go back around, finish tightening up everything. Remember, once again, do not over tighten. 1 is plastic and 2, it's an electrical circuit board. So now, once you get all that, you are going to insert the zip ties here, 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 and over here, and get them, get the wires secured into place. There's a little lip here for the wire to go underneath. I'm going to make sure it goes in there, like I have here. So, right there. Now, once all that is done, put that baby back in there. You want to make sure you get that out of the way, because now for the next step, disassembly of the CFS unit. Now, I haven't installed anything. I got all my cables and everything right there for the CFS. Now, fair warning, when you're taking apart the CFS, there is a rod that goes through for the hinge from one side all the way across to the other. When this bottom comes off, you will have to make sure that that rod does not come out. Now, this is where it gets tricky. There's my buffer. I always mount the buffer